if you have knowledge, let others light their candles in it. We're talking about investing wisdom accumulated over 35 years on two very special episodes of The Wizards of Dalal Street, 35 years. Welcome back to Duregsh Shah and Vinod Sethi. Vinod, let me get back to you. 89, you come to India. How did you go about investing? Was it allowed?
Well, it wasn't allowed. Foreigners were not allowed into India at that stage. So we had to work through the regulators and the finance ministry in particular, to convince them about the whole idea of granting us a special dispensation to. This was even before the FI regulations and SEBI and all were not.
Which came in 92, 93.
Correct. And so thankfully we did get a dispensation to operate through SBI in India.
Right. You also, one of the, they say about bowling, if you're a cricket fan, that great bowlers hunt in packs. The other half of the hunting team with you was Madhav Dar. Tell me about him.
Oh, he's a very colourful chap. He was more the macro person. He was sort of the bull in the china shop, if you will. And he had excellent relationships, him being the son of Mr. P.N. Dar.
A famous bureaucrat.
A famous bureaucrat, had good equations and with lots of bureaucrats.
But his dad was a left-leaning bureaucrat, if I'm not mistaken.
And this guy was absolutely right-leaning. Correct. So opposites do go together.
Yes. But you, by virtue of your career, have had visits with some extraordinary people on Wall Street and Dalal Street. Two names I particularly want to ask you about. Give me a bio of them. Barton Biggs.
Oh yeah. Barton Biggs was the chairman of Morgan Stanley Asset Management. He combined he combined great writing skills with a great analytical mind and a great love for markets. So Barton Biggs was a visionary in that sense, that he could use very good English to convey very complex ideas, thoughts. So here was a part literature professor, part market participant, and a visionary, and the chairman of the firm. And I think the most important quality he had is that he gave you full freedom to disagree and speak your mind.
The other character, we often talk about Buffett, but the other one who's been very long-term influential, perhaps not as well known, Julian Robertson.
Absolutely.
What did you learn from him?
Oh, he is, I would say he's an absolute legend. And he was one of my first clients. So I got to interact with him fairly closely.
At Morgan Stanley?
Yes, he was Morgan Stanley's largest shareholder, largest client, largest everything.
And trained legendary bunch of Cubs.
Yes. And there's no surprise.
Were you a Cub of his?
I thought so.
Okay.
I thought so. For many years, he was our largest client.
Right. And what did you learn from him?
I think I learned from him how important it is to be alert, to be a listener, don't talk, value your time, take risks, and gauge people well. I think Julian Roberts the Cubs are doing well because one man has selected all of them.
Really?
That's Julian.
Right. You know, you often talk about in the Chinese Revolution, Mao said, let 1,000 flowers bloom. In the 80s and 90s, 1,000 lots of good Indian companies were blooming. And between both of you, you were a witness to history. Let's just talk about some of the great companies of that era. Let's start with Infosys. Your thoughts on that? You were one of the big, early, large investors in Infosys.
Correct. Well, Infosys, I don't know whether you know, Ramesh, the IPO did pretty badly.
It failed. It was undersubscribed. You guys wrote the balance, I think.
Correct. And so I still remember meeting Mr. Narayan Murthy for perhaps 3 or 4 hours at the Sea Lounge at the Taj, where he was humbly trying to explain that he is
going to export software from India.
That this is what he does and why he'll do well, and all of that. My mind was already sort of made up that software exports would do very well from India. I mean, I studied in engineering colleges in India. I knew the wage arbitrage. It made sense. The business made absolute sense. There was no debate about it.
And the rupee would depreciate. That was also given. Correct.
So given all the macros were in your favor. If you could hire an Indian engineer for 50,000 rupees those days, which would cost $50,000 abroad. So the basic theme was clear to me. I was looking for an execution person who would execute this thing. And it became very clear with Dalal Murthy and team that they've been slogging it out for 15, 20 years prior to that. And something told you that if someone is sitting humbly and trying to explain this whole thing to you for 3 to 4 hours, this guy is going to get somewhere. So that was the call. The macro combined with a very good agent who seems to be leading a very good team in that industry. And you were getting it at rock bottom prices. There was no one else to buy it.
Inam also became famous, Duregsh bhai, with Infosys. What was the Inam thought process? In fact, you took it public.
I think what Vinod is saying is very important, but let me be very honest with you. This was immediately, it's 93, just after the liberalization of pricing of issues. So there was Vallabh Bhansali and Nemish Shah and me and Siddharth going to this Infosys office in Bangalore, and just as he said, those guys trying to convince us at what price the issue should be made. And of course Vallabh was finally the important person to all these things, but since there was a valuation point coming in, we were also there, and Nemish and I thought it was expensive. So we were completely wrong. Just because we had seen issues at such great valuations before that, we thought, and most of the market thought like us, so the issue didn't do well because you didn't have issues coming at those levels. But what as Vinod could see and what we could not see was the future, the integrity and the ability of the person, the scalability. I mean, the rest is history. There was a phenomenal situation out there to see some guy who is going to absolutely make it and make India proud.